Good day, mother.
How are
How are
you?
you? You look pretty.
Oh,
I
thanks.
like that color green on you. It looks cute.
Thank you. I like your black shirt too.
Thank you. Well, we're doing a purge in the house. I know where I get it from. I have such sentimental value with clothes that I'm like, it's so hard for me to let things go. Like Jordy can like just get something, like can just let something
Yeah.
go completely and not think twice about it.
Yeah.
And I like left one day. I was like at dinner with a friend and I came home and he's like, "Oh, I hope you don't mind. I pulled some things out that I didn't think you liked or would wear anymore." And then I go through and I'm like, "Well, this is like my mom gave me this the one time," or "Oh, my brother gave this to me for a gift. Oh my gosh, I've had this since I was in high school and it's just so vintage. I have to keep it."
See, if I knew we were talking about the topic, I would have brought out your little Simba underwear that I still.
There you go. Exactly. But I know you definitely like to hold on to some things too. So I'm like, I must get it from you for sure.
I mean, when I cleaned out the attic, I still had your headgear.
You had, like, pieces of my baby hair.
Yes. I mean, well, every mom has a piece of their baby's first haircut,
Is
but
that
I
still a thing?
literally had your Steve Urkel headgear.
Yeah, I'm so tied to it emotionally. Maybe it's because 'cause I'm such an emotional being that we just, like, I don't wanna
Because
let
we
it
have good
go.
memories. It's something. It's only things that we have good attached memories to. You know what I mean? Like we don't keep sad things. We only keep happy things.
Yeah, agreed. Well, because sometimes I also think too, I'm not sure about you, but, I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna come back in style." I know you got, like, a whole rack of jeans that you think are gonna,
Yes, they're
have
going
been
to come back, just like the wide leg. They're coming back. Wide
Yeah,
legs coming back.
I know, but you've had them for, like, 10 years.
They're coming back. Now I don't
Okay.
have to buy them,
So you got them all.
even though I did buy just a couple new pairs.
Exactly, see? You're always gonna end up buying something. I'm wearing this because I'm like, "Oh, I haven't worn it yet on the podcast," and Jordy's like, "If you haven't pulled it out and looked at it to wear in a certain amount of time, then it either needs to be donated or sold," which I do agree to a certain degree, but there's some things that I refuse to give up and take away. I won't do it.
I agree. I am the same way.
I'm like, I'm doubling down on it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
as you sit and then purge and get rid of things, and then you call me from the dressing room,
I'm like, I'm buying more shit.
and you're buying more shit. He's trying on stuff, literally FaceTiming me while he's in the dressing room. FaceTime, totally getting dressed in and out of new clothes. Then he would walk over to Jordy's dressing room.
They give you a whole, like, runway
Pink.
yeah, a whole runway show of, like, what
Yeah, they have the guy from Nordstrom's bringing in their clothes, taking them out. Can
he
I
was
have a small? Can I have this? Do you have this?
listen, he was really looking out because I was really on the fence about this one shirt, and then he was like, "Oh, let's just order you a small. We'll send." I'm like, "Perfect, bet, let's do it."
Yeah. Well, it was very cute.
Yes, I know, I can't well, I'll be able to add it to the new clothes collection, and we'll be able to model it on the podcast.
And your jacket.
And my jacket, yes.
Jacket's very cute. I think that's your thing. You know, people have like pocketbooks, shoes, pants, and stuff.
uh
I think yours is jackets.
Really? I don't feel like I have that many jackets.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
I feel like when you go, you always come home with a jacket.
Maybe, like, a cute little windbreaker.
Yeah, like the new, like, right. You just went to the other store, got two new windbreakers. You didn't get a shirt or anything. Oh, no, you got some pants and a shirt too.
Our mantra is out with the old, in with the new. That's our new philosophy.
Out with
Well,
the old, in with the new.
it's just funny when I need your, like,
Approval.
approval or, like, validation of, like, "Do you like this? Does this look cute? What do you think? Do you think this is a good fit?" I was even thinking, like, the other day I don't know about other people who are listening, but there's certain even, like, movies that I, like, rebuke. I'm like, "No, I don't want" like, I love the movie, but I don't wanna watch it because it makes me think of a time period where, like, it ties me to, like, being young and being, like, at home with you and, like, watching on the couch or with, like, Brett, and it's, like, a loving feeling, but then I get sad because I'm like,
Aw.
"Oh," like, it makes me sad that, like, that's not life right now at this moment, you know what I mean? So then I'm like, "Oh, I actually don't wanna watch it." So I said I've been having those moments where I'm like,
Yeah, but it's good to have those, it's I think that it's good to watch things like that once in a while because it brings up those emotions, and, with those emotions, it can be appreciation, it can be love, it can be emotional, but it's still bringing, like, good things in.
Yeah, but, like, there's certain
Don't make it sad, make it
I
like
know, well, that's why I have to change the narrative to it because there's even
yeah.
songs and, like, playlists that I'm like, I will avoid like, if I want a good cry, I'm going in my car and I'm putting on songs that make me cry Spotify playlist, and Imma just turn it out. That's gonna be my couple minutes to do it, and it's the songs about that make me, like, think of you or think of, like, a period of my life. A song that makes me takes me back to a different period of my life where I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't believe, like, that was my life or that was happening at the time." I've caught myself more recently, like, actually pushing away those songs, like, if Jordy puts on a song, I'll be like, "I can't listen to it," and I'll be like, "Why?" I'm like, "It makes me think of my mom when I was, like, little."
Aw,
I
that's
know,
sweet. That is sweet, though.
right?
You have attachments to these things, yeah.
I do.
When were we talking about it or something that which ties into today's episode? We were talking about remember we were sitting there talking about what song would you play at my funeral or something, remember?
Just a casual dinner conversation.
I think that was in our experience when we were talking about death and the Mack truck almost ran me off the road when we were going for my
Oh,
birthday.
yeah. I said I wanted, "WAP" by Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B.
That reminds you of me?
No, that's what I want on my funeral.
No, at my funeral.
Oh, no, but we all went through and said, "What songs would we play?" And I said, "I would want my funeral to be like a celebration. I want y'all eating chicken nuggets. I want"
McDonald's, Diet Coke,
yeah, McDonald's Diet Coke. I
chicken
want
nuggets.
I want, like, the finest shit. If I'm out, you guys are representing and going in for me. Seriously, I'm like, I want everybody also, this is sidebar, I have a big issue with the sexism in these songs. I said I want it WAP as my, like, farewell song, like, I want everyone to go out with a bang, but, like, I notice at weddings specifically okay, and this is a story, I've requested WAP at a wedding. It was
No
like a
one is playing WAP at a wedding.
no, 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 no.
No
See
one.
no,
I
no,
don't
no.
care what wedding you're going to, nobody's playing that if there's family and everything involved.
No, this is my issue though. It's because you can't sit there and have to the window, to the wall, to the sweat drip down my balls. We're okay with that. We got all the people are out there. Yeah, they're vibing to it. We got that going on, but Cardi and Meg want to talk about a wet ass pussy, and then that's where we draw the line. That is sexism at its finest, and I have a big issue with that. And like at weddings specifically, like that's where we draw the line. We can't talk about women empowering their sexuality and their bodies, but we're gonna draw the line at that?
I mean, you're right, you're right.
Yeah, and I'm like so I was at a wedding one time with Jordan, and it was like, "Listen, if you don't play one goddamn Lady Gaga song, Taylor Swift song, Ariana Grande song, Rihanna song," I mean, like, I Charlie's my girl, we know that, I'll even let you slide on that, but, like, if you don't even give me one of the like, the pop girls that, like, are, like, radio pop girls, you're not even playing one song from them, that's an issue, like, I really am, like, alarmed at, like, your connection to pop culture.
Do you wanna say that if that's not wasn't played at their weddings?
I don't care.
Alright.
If you're not gonna play one song that ever
You gotta play a Gaga. You gotta play a Gaga.
yes. If
Yeah,
not even a Britney Spears song, come on.
yeah. Rain on Me, Gaga, that's
You're not
like
gonna play Whitney Houston Dance with Somebody, like, come on. You're not gonna give me one Nicki song. You're not gonna give me a Meg song. We can't even do Body, we can't even do Her. We can't even do Savage, y'all can't even do the TikTok dance there, like, come on, that's like, not even a Beyoncé song. No, that's what I'm saying, like, that if they're not even doing Savage, they're definitely not playing Apple by
that's
Charlie.
not Savage, that's
No, that's
Apple.
Apple. So, that's my big issue, my gripe. So, what I did was a part of me, after a couple cocktails or 2, felt like going up to the request form that they had, and I wrote WAP on there. And I felt like I needed to have some momentum behind it because this wedding was dry. There was nothing happening. I needed people to, like, be fucking it up on the dance floor. one of those people that, like, I really need to vibe to the song to really be out there to do it. There was nothing, there was nothing. So this was my one last chance, my saving grace, my big swing. So I wrote WAP and I said, "Request it by the bride."
Oh god.
Because I'm like, "Hey, if this
Did
is
they
gonna make
play
some,"
it?
I'm like, "If this is gonna make some noise, this will do it, right? This has to move the needle for me." So a
And
couple
was it
songs go
good?
by, not hearing it. I'm hearing, like, some, like, Bop Hansen, some Flo Rida, Low. I'm like, "Oh my god, like, no." So then I go up to the list and someone literally crossed out my WAP and said, "Bride did not request this." So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, you're kidding me."
Uh,
Like, I was trying to have 1 ounce of fun, like, 1 ounce. I was really trying to get the people going. I thought we could go out with a bang. Nothing. Nobody wanted to work with me.
Oh my god.
So, I've had a big personal gripe with sexism in the music industry where we can sing about balls having sweat on them, but we can't sing about a wet
Yeah, I
pussy.
don't know about the, music industry. I think it's music DJs at weddings.
Yeah, wedding culture. I have an issue with the sexism
Wedding
in wedding
culture.
culture because
Yes.
I've noticed as soon as you say WAP, everyone's like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
I'm like, "People, this was the number 1 song in the country at one point,
Yeah.
but we can sing all these." I mean, come on.
Agree.
So, that's my hot take about WAP, so that's why I'm like, I'm reclaiming the power of WAP, so on my deathbed, people, mark it
Yeah,
here, play it at my funeral.
everybody get that. When the
Funerals,
person reads his will, it'll be like, "These are Paul Royston's request."
my last request. Nuggets, Diet Coke, and WAP.
And what?
Well, speaking of funerals,
Yes, let's bring it down.
yeah, let's bring it down a notch. So, we've gotten a request from a couple people who thought the topic of grief was something that's not talked about a lot, normalizing it, making conversations about it. So I said, wow, what a great way to normalize it. It's something that everybody feels. We all are going to experience it or one way or another. So Barb, let's talk about it. Me and you have always been like, open about like, you've talked
Yeah,
about, hey, I'm getting older. I don't want you guys to do this if I'm young. You've
yeah,
said, hey, if you can't wipe your own ass, push me down a flight of steps. We've had open and honest conversations about death and it scares me. Like I literally cannot imagine life without you. And, I think like I always am in a stance of fear of like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to live without my mom. And I try to like, get ahead of myself where it's like I can kind of like maybe soften the blow or something. And I don't know if there's really ways to do that. And I'm sure it comes down to shifting our narrative. But I thought, hey,
well,
what a
that's all how we process it and what we can take from it. Like, obviously, we're gonna grieve, but it's then also we have to think of, the good parts about it, and I always say the saying from Ghost, Patrick Swayze says, "You take all the love with you."
period. Who else am I gonna call when I get invited to a famous person's home and they invite me to their home for a barbecue, big soiree, and before I leave, before you know it, he pulls down his pants and is swinging his flopping dick at me, and there's an orgy happening in the hot tub. Who else am I gonna call in moments like that when I'm thinking, "What the fuck is this, and where did I get myself into?" You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
I mean, how could you not? Hello. I mean, I remember I was like, "What is happening here?" Like,
Yeah.
there's
We get a lot of phone calls. We get a lot of phone calls, different reasons.
yeah, you got that phone call on my way out that damn door so quick on the way home saying, "That's not how I remember that person portraying themselves on TV, but hello, here we are." I just go to you for everything. You're my soundboard, and, I
Same.
yeah, yeah, you need me as much as I need you.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too. Well, with that being said, today's episode, we have Dr. Jennifer Minami, who is a psychiatrist, very well versed in dealing with, many clients of hers that suffer struggling with, the loss of somebody they love and grief. With that being said, let's welcome to the podcast, Dr. Minami. Hi, Dr. Minami.
Hello.
How funny that me and you are both wearing black. I was
I
like,
know.
I put it on and I was like, it's about grief. And I was like, is this too like
Yeah. Uh,
I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
is this too morbid that we're gonna wear black for this? But I was like, I don't
Yeah. Just go with it. Yeah. We can't
I'm glad
get
I
around
brought it.
everything.
I'm glad I brought color, tan.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Dr. Minami, we're so happy to have you on today. I said, I know such a heavy topic as grief isn't always the most pleasant to talk about, but I'm sure from your expertise, you know how valuable and important, these type of conversations are surrounding grief.
Certainly, we know that grief and loss are universal human experiences. Something that I found interesting when I was learning about grief in my earlier training was that the age at which we first experience a significant loss in our life is young for many of us. In the US, 1 in 20 loses a parent before the age of 18. So when I put that, I always think of these statistics and I imagine that in real life. And essentially, that's one high schooler, 1 to 2 high schoolers or children before that age losing a parent before they graduate.
Well, I mean, you kind of mentioned, when grief is something obviously that everybody experience and, at some point in time in their life, I think the biggest thing is like, what is grief, right? Like grief, I'm sure comes in so many different forms. I'm sure it can look so different for everybody, but like, what is the actual definition of grief?
So grief really is about feelings of loss and emptiness in the days, weeks, couple months after a significant loss. There's a whole range of emotions people can feel, but numbness, sadness, detachment. Sometimes there's anger, there's bitterness, sorrow, right? Just plain sadness. That's all the big affective part, the emotional part of grief. And then certainly there's reminders that we have of a loved one that can trigger all those feelings. And for some people, it means leaning into those reminders and sort of focusing on all those things. And for others, it's trying to avoid reminders. Grief is kind of also templated based on our family and our culture and maybe our spiritual religious practices. Some, again, settings you might be encouraged to have those reminders, engage in certain rituals to remember. And again, we see in families that within a similar family, it can look different too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, like, I'm sure certain people maybe experience this in some way or another, but like, there's moments where, like, you hear that song or that movie or that clip of something or a
That
flower. I don't,
connection, yeah.
yeah. And it just, it evokes so much emotion that is, obviously maybe for some overwhelming. I view that as like, I think the biggest thing I would have with that is like wanting to kind of go away from that because it's like avoidance. There's like certain movies or certain things that like I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to watch this because I don't want to put myself in a moment of like vulnerability to feel those emotions of like childhood or something that makes you feel good. How important is that for people to like embrace that?
Right.
Because I'm assuming there's a probably not so healthy way of like avoidance in regards to grief. Uh-huh.
Avoidance isn't always bad, right? There's a protective mechanism sometimes, a value to avoidance. And in the long term, right? In the end, in the process of grieving and healing, we have to think about ourselves and our life in a new way. So it does involve kind of anchoring ourselves to thoughts of the past so that we can kind of think about the present and the future going forward.
But
I just think
avoidance
of it
can,
like a timeline of
yeah, I was gonna
what
say
you go
avoidance
through.
can be right. I mean, too long, right? That's kind of denial and you're not really processing the emotions, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or you
Yeah.
think about people right after a loss, right? It's or after any, natural disaster, there's like a go mode of take care of this, take care of that. That again, that's kind of avoidance or denial of thinking about, again, indulging in the feelings and the memories to get through a certain part of the grieving process, the recovery process. Complicated grief. So that's one kind of grief where it's persisting longer than we would expect. So for adults, that's 12 months. For kids, that's 6 months. And that people are really having trouble continuing their life, resuming work or a social life. And there's still a lot of detachment or isolation. We sometimes talk about traumatic grief where if, especially if the loss was to suicide or to homicide, that there's this whole added complexity to that. Survivors of people lost that way can also really have a lot of pain around the suffering that that person endured in that moment or during the time leading up to that kind of death. So that's another kind of grief that we'll see.
How important though is it to differentiate though depression and grief? Because
Yeah,
obviously I can only imagine a significant loss is going to bring on some sort of depression, sadness,
yeah,
but like how do you differentiate where it's like you're going into a deep depression where you're not getting out of bed and separating that from like grief of mourning like a loved one?
yeah. Yeah, and it's good that that you bring that up because for a long time we didn't distinguish between grief and depression because there can be some overlap in that, and we used to normalize people's grief and say, oh, you're not depressed. This is all just grief. So now we do try to, in our current diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, or DSM, our kind of definition and criteria of mental disorders, we say that depression is usually universal feelings of sadness and overall inability to experience pleasure. So things that you used to love doing, you don't do anymore. There can be a lot of guilt and low self esteem, feelings of worthlessness, where you can still have sadness and some, again, detachment in grief, but it's mostly focused around the loss. So, again, these feelings are circumscribed around thinking about remembering the deceased. And certainly, grief can become a trigger, right, for to go into a depression, or maybe someone who struggled with depression before in life. Again, this kind of brings on
Mm.
another episode of depression. So it's really kind of, when someone comes to me, we're thinking of the whole picture, right? Like, who was the loss? How long ago? How are they recovering? What is the sadness about? Right. And hey, is this maybe starting to look like depression again?
It's really crazy for me when I think about, like, literally somebody has to, like, continue life after something so like, I know everybody, like I said, experiences like, the common emotion that everybody can feel at one point or another is the loss of somebody they love. But to me, that is so crazy to always think, like, when I watch a movie or I watch a TV show and you put yourselves in, like, that person's shoes, and I'm like, "Oh my god," like, they have to continue through life without that person. Like, that is
Yeah.
so horrifying. I mean, I think even for me, my own example is like, you know, I love my mom to death. Anybody who's listening knows this, and
To
you know
death,
that.
no pun
Yeah,
intended.
yeah, no pun intended.
But
We yeah, we love a little dark humor on a heavy subject, right? I appreciate it. And I was like, to me, it's like to think about that moment, which I don't want to think about, but like her not being here, I'm like, oh my God, there's parts of me that like I'm already like preparing about what that blow looks like that puts a pit in my stomach that I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'll be able to like go on and like live without my mom. Like there's gonna be such an emptiness. Is it normal for people
Yeah.
to like already kind of like prepare themselves for like
thanks.
no, not that I'm trying to like off my mom, but I'm like,
I
like
already told you, I sent you the thing that I saw this thing on social media where you can mummify somebody, and they were mummified and they were put into a coffee table.
so
Oh,
that's Barb's
so is
that's
this your directive to Paul?
yeah.
And I literally sent it to both my kids and I was like, don't fight over me, but here's what I'm putting in my will that you're going. And there was a picture of the person in the coffee table.
I said, "Girl, I love you," but I'm like, "That's not happening."
I was like, you can have coffee, like, put your coffee cup right on me and have a conversation every
Oh,
morning.
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
It's like
Is
Oh my
that
gosh.
is that too far, doctor?
You'll never leave him. Oh my goodness.
That's my point.
she wants to
Yeah.
be here no matter what,
No
Yeah, that's
matter
right.
what.
heartbeat or not.
Yes.
But I said probably an unhealthy way. I mean, hello, but in an unhealthy way, like, there are moments where I think about life going by so quick, me getting older, my mom not being here, like, and that is such a significant loss that, like, to me, I'm already like, Like, I worry about, like, my mental health or, like, how I'm going to move forward in life without her being here. Like,
Which which in the same I worry about the same thing, like, for my children, that they express this loss so much, you know what I mean? That I sit and I think that's one of the things why I, like, have a denial about my age and stuff, because I'm like, I don't want to acknowledge that I'm getting older, that someday they're gonna have a loss of me. Like, I can't even yeah, it even gets me upset talking about it because I can't even, like, imagine them without me or me without them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Barb shedding a tear. I know you don't know her like that, but it's very common. So, like, don't
Um,
she's very sensitive.
yeah. But, as you were talking about this idea of I don't know how I'll go on and things like that, that's also another distinction between grief, which again, I think you're already showing you're anticipating that, right? That it's an inevitable separation that you two will have. But that you might think about death, you might even wish to still be with mom or, after she's gone. Um, and that some people who are grieving, they will, that's a pretty common thing. That's different than the thoughts about death that someone who has a depression is going to express, right? That they're actively, for separate reasons, wanting to end their life. But it's still common to think about just death a lot and even your own when grieving. This theme comes up too, right? How will I be okay? And parents thinking, will my kids be okay?
Absolutely.
Right. And that is a hard thing, right? But that is the
Yes.
goal, is like, and it's more well, I see that you're sitting in physically separate spaces now. So I'm assuming, Paul, like you live outside of the home from mom
Yes.
now, right? But I mean,
3,000
it,
3,000 miles away. Yeah.
yeah, that's a little car ride. So, even leading up, I'm sure, mom, you remember anticipating when the kids are going to grow up and separate in a smaller way by going off to college or wherever else and moving. And are they going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And so this is just another example of that. And it's kind of about working on being okay with. I've done a good job as a mom, and Paul, I've got the strengths within me to, like, as hard as it's going to be, I'm gonna be okay too, right? Of course, easier said than done, but that is the theme of it, is that everyone's gonna be okay.
I kinda struggle with that though personally, where I think, like, it's kinda sick to, like, have this beautiful life where everybody's healthy, we're together, we're celebrating each other, we love each other, and then it's like, in the back of your mind, I think, "Oh my god, well, you won't have this forever though." But I'm like, is that, like, a healthy, like, I don't know, is that, like, building, like, a healthy relationship with acceptance, you know? Like, because I always think, like, I'm kind of a control freak, as you might pick up as I'm talking about this, right? And I'm like, I wanna have control over my emotions, that when my mom is no longer here, that pain is not debilitating, where I can't get up out of bed or I can't function without my life. So to me, it's like, are there steps that you encourage for people like myself to be like, "Hey, you know that feeling's there, it's valid." How can you chip away at it as you move forward in life where it's like there and you just know it's inevitable?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good question because, like, for my age group, a lot of my friends now are losing their parents. So, I see the grief and, my dad's in his 80s and stuff. So I'm like starting to prepare myself for that too. So how do you prepare if there is a way to do that, knowing, you know what I mean, especially my age group with, like I said, my friends losing a lot of their parents right now.
Paul, as soon as you say control, it makes me think, well, that's why it's so hard, right? Because loss and death are things that absolutely we
We
can't
can't.
control. We don't know the timing of it. We don't know how we're going to be per se, right? I think
Mhm.
we can, that's why I say focusing on ways that we can, are within our, for people who, I don't want to say control freaks, but who value control, there's I think of there's a sphere of control, of things we can control, and there are things that are beyond that, no matter what we try. And so death is one of them. And instead of thinking about that, directing our energy, our focus on what we can control, which is time is passing and I am enjoying right now. Anticipatory anything, anxiety, grief is about thinking of the future, which is amorphous. It's hard to fully mold. We try our best, but really the only thing is like right now that I'm noticing I'm this age, mom is here, mom with dad. This is what I'm enjoying. This is what I'm loving. This is what I'm grateful for, because I can't control that other stuff that's coming.
Let me tell you, being a human is fucking hard. I'm like,
Yeah, tell me about
and no one sets you up for this, right? Like, you have
yeah.
like, I always say there's so much beauty in life, but then at the same time, it's like that can turn completely in a switch, you know? Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's also like, just kinda having that perspective change, I guess, on what you have in the moment, as opposed to wasting your life thinking about an end terrible result, and then, like, it's kinda like you wasted time thinking about something that you know is gonna happen, so it's like, got it, you accept it, you acknowledged it, you know it's gonna happen, everybody unfortunately passes away, but don't let that, like, don't waste your time already thinking about that, because then it's like when that actually happens, you're like, "Oh, I just wasted my time doing that."
Yeah.
And I also have a
Yeah,
huge
and I could live to 110, who
yeah.
knows?
Or end up in the living room, in the coffee table.
There you go, exactly, I did ha
Technology's advancing. By the time this happens,
You could actually,
you'll
by the
be in the
time
sofa.
maybe I could just be sitting there, right?
Yeah, in the sofa.
I did have a psychic reading done, and she told me that my mom would live to be 90. So that's a good knock on wood, that's a good chunk
Yeah,
of time.
I'm
So
a
you've got another, like, 45 years, right?
yes, yes, I do.
You
Dr.
gotta
Minami
be
knows how to butter you up,
I
that's a
know.
yeah. But, I really think though, like, the thing too is that, like, on the receiving end, is that the person who lost somebody is carrying this incredible loss, but then I know that the person who they love would not wanna see them like that, and that's the craziest part though, Like, that is truly the craziest part where I always can't wrap my head around, is like, that person wouldn't like, my mom would not want me sick in bed, missing out on, like, doing that, but, like, I probably wouldn't be able to help myself, you know?
Just a couple days, no.
Yeah.
That's the thing about, at least for mom being a parent, is as much as we wanna shield our kids from, even if it's the small splinter, right? I mean, that splinter feels like the biggest, freaking piece of wood that could have ever been in your child's finger, or, whatever heartache, whatever breakup, whatever adversity. That is also the sign of just, love between a parent and their kid, is wanting to shield them. And still, Paul's probably been through stuff. It's broken your heart, it's ripped you apart at times, and, that's just part of it. It's kind of maybe coming back to that acceptance, Paul. We don't like it, and I always say, and it's not gonna be good, and we're still gonna come out of it. It's gonna be hard or not, right? Maybe he'll do the 2-day grieving and be done, mom, but, yeah, yeah.
Dr. Jem, what can you talk about, like, people who have guilt after someone passes?
Mhm.
A loved one, a parent, a sister, a brother.
Something I do with people, and then maybe it'll tie into this question a little bit, is 4 phrases to think about as you're living your current, focusing on the present relationship with someone, and that you kind of want to be able to say or have peace about after they pass, which is, I love you, I'll never forget you, please forgive me, and I forgive you. And those are 4 things that a lot of times, if it wasn't felt, mutually understood without being said or said, can be the residual of what makes coping with loss hard. And so when you say guilt, I'm thinking, what did you need forgiveness for? And, evaluating if that's really accurate or not. And again, even if there was something, in long relationships, we have hurts, we have times where we felt, not loved and whatever, right? But it's the idea of repair and forgiveness and being at peace with it after. So even if there were things that you feel you need forgiveness for, can we imagine that you would have been given it, that you are given it from that person and to yourself?
You have a very, soothing I don't I'm like,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, I feel comfortable, like, talking to you, which, I mean, obviously, granted, that's your job, so it's like, that should that probably
Oh, I find myself.
yeah, right? Like, that goes without saying, but no, like, it's
Like, I wanna lay on the
Thank
couch
you.
and start telling you all my darkest secrets. No.
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's very comforting. It's a very, like, good time like, I feel like I could, yeah, sit on a couch, like that typical leather
Yeah.
couch that you think in, like, a therapist's office and just lay out and just talk my
Here
shit
it
to you.
is. Here I am. Yeah.
Grief is not the easiest thing to talk about, as you know more than anybody, but I said it's something that I feel like, everybody's going to feel this. So it's like, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can work through it. Let's see how we can prevent in some way, shape, or form that maybe, really hard hurdle to overcome. And I think, everybody can find some comfort in knowing that we all experience that one way or another.
Yeah, and kudos to you both for sitting in the room with a person who, right? This like it brings up so many of these feelings. So yeah, that's really great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. And I want the people to know, can they check you out at? Where can they check out your work if they want to hear that soothing voice in person or virtually? Do you have let the people know
Yeah,
your web.
website.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's my name. So www.jenniferminamimd.com.
I
Thank
was
you
gonna
so much.
yeah,
Yes.
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. Take care. It was fun.
Yes.
All
All
right.
right.
Have
Have a
a
great
good
day.
Dr.
day.
Minami, thank you. She's so sweet. I loved having
She
her on.
does. Such a soothing
I
voice.
know. I loved it. I
I
literally
literally wanted to, like, lay on the couch and just be like, "Here's my darkest secrets."
I
Yeah.
know. And I said, I wanted to come in with like a little bit of an upbeat approach because that's like scary, like I was saying to you,
It's
like I get
yes. And I feel like I mean, I'm sure it happens, obviously, it happens in everybody's family. In our family, it has happened a lot, and
hmm
as younger children, it has happened, so I feel like you were introduced to death and grief and seeing people grieve at a very early age.
I think I
So
had a different perception of what death looked like because of Brett's cancer journey of like seeing that as a young kid and
yeah,
seeing how quickly, I mean, like, when I was like 16, I was like, I know what the world is, and, when I actually look back now, I'm like, "Damn, 16's like a little kid," and that's a
yeah.
lot of, like, deep, dark thinking to think about, "Oh my god, like, I could lose somebody at 16 or this young age," or
And you witness things at that age with Brett that, were
yeah.
very traumatic and yeah.
Oh, yeah, I definitely got a little PTSD from that, like, even to this day, if you call me, like, I can only call you, that's why it's called, "Hold on, I'm calling my mom." Because if you call me, I am in a panic, I'm like, "What's wrong?
Yeah,
Why are you calling me? What happened? Is everything
yeah.
okay?" Because it's always me calling you or checking in or something. Same thing with Brett. As soon as Brett calls me, I'm like, "What's wrong? What happened?" Like, I have that, like, still
I
traumatic.
think we all do. I think we all do. Yeah, we just go right for that thought, you know what I mean? But I think, again, we all witness things, unfortunately, with your brother, very close to areas we did not wanna be close to,
Yeah.
and, it traumatizes you. I don't think you ever can take yourself out of that.
No, but I also think too that we did not see sometimes in our household the healthiest coping mechanisms of what grief looks like for people.
Yeah,
I don't really remember you ever being so like, you kinda always have been composed and, like, handled it in certain ways. I mean, I think the biggest thing was
yeah,
more of, like, when your mom passed away, that was, like, the one time that I saw you kinda really, like, shook up by it because you actually watched her, like, pass away, like, you were in the, room
yeah.
with her, and that's, like, very traumatizing, I can only imagine, and
I
that was
think that was probably because that was the closest death to me.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
that it impacted you deeply, yeah.
Yeah, that I was, of my family.
I remember when it happened, and I just remember, like, I was like, "Damn," like, she was in a room, like, with her mom taking her final breath, like, that's, like, my god, like, that's always gonna be in your head, you're never gonna not see that image or think about that.
Never, not ever not gonna see that. I agree.
So you're always stoic for me. You would never just, like, break down and be a mess, you always held it together. You're an emotional
Yeah.
person, you always, like,
I'm an
cry.
emotional person, but when things hit the fan, I feel like I pull it together and I go and I take control and I'm like, "We're doing this. This is what's happening." Yeah.
I think
So
I get that from
I
you. Of
appreciate that. Thank you.
course. I mean
No,
it.
I pride myself of that. I
No.
don't wanna be one of those,
I think you've hit a lot of your it's weird. I think you've hit a lot of your emotions sometimes when we were, when you were married to my dad and stuff like that. Because I think you picked up the slack of someone else not always being fully like, "Okay, we're a family unit. We're doing this together." Like, you kinda took that role, and I think you suppressed a lot of maybe how you're feeling to put on that, like, "I'm gonna do this, and everything's okay," but deep down inside, you probably had a lot going on in your mind, So
Yeah, I was crumbling.
yeah, I definitely feel that for sure, like, you would never show it or say it, like, even you always kept it together, even though you are an emotional person, you still managed to keep together. I think I'm kinda the same way, I think I get that from you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm pretty, like, when no?
I
You don't think I'm
don't
stoic?
No.
How are
I
you
don't
kidding me?
know. Stoic?
Girl, what is okay, you're
Yeah,
losing me lately on
yes.
the
Yes. Yes, I think you're
no,
stoic.
don't backpedal now because I put you on the spot, I'm gonna challenge you on it, but you can be honest.
No, I think you're stoic, but I think you also it you go from 0 to 100 with anxiety because like
When
in
have you never not seen me put together? I went through being 16 years old with Brett having
Yeah,
cancer.
no, that's what I'm
Through
saying. No, I
hello.
totally think that. Yes.
So maybe I had but also I don't feel like we should really need to, like, ego to like, well, I did like, it is what it
Yeah,
is,
no, 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 no.
but I do feel like I'm not a mess. When things in my life are a mess, I'm emotional, but, like, I'm going to fix them and make them better, or I'm gonna try to the best of my ability. I always feel like I keep together. I'm not, like, adding on to the stress in a household that is already, like, stressed. Like, I think I've kept
Yeah,
it together.
yeah. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Because
I'm saying,
I'm still a
yeah.
little
No,
I'm a
I'm
little
saying,
confused.
yeah.
I'm a little confused of what you meant.
No, I said yes.
No, but you said you what do I do?
No, no. When something here is like going on or something, I feel bad to call you because I know it upsets you. So I guess it has nothing to do with, yeah, it
It's
upsets
about
you
you
because
because
you're there,
your delivery is very dramatic sometimes. So your delivery is
but I
like,
feel like it upsets you because you're there and you can't be here.
"No, it
So,
upsets
and
me." No, 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 no,
yeah,
no. It
so
upsets
then it
me.
gets yeah, which is a natural thing.
No, it
You're
would
there, we're here.
what upsets me is that when you have called me at, like, 1 AM, like, midnight my time on, like, a Friday night, like, one time I'm out, and you're like, "Oh my god, your brother's at the gay bar, and he some guy, like, kissed his neck," and, like, you're, like, freaking out because Brett called you and with, like, told you something, and then you ran with it and made it into, like, this cute like, you added to the dramatization of, like, making it a bigger deal, which then is stressful because then I'm like, "Well, I'm not also fixing the problem, I'm also, like, calming you down." So now, like actually, I take everything I said back. Now you're a hot fucking mess, so fuck off. Yeah.
And something like that, but medical wise and stuff, when I have to call you, I'm very calm and I'm like, hey, so
I mean,
we're
Brett literally was trying to speed home and, fucking take every car off 295 because he thought you lost, your whole hand.
and what did I say? It's okay. And what did I
After he
say?
showed up and got there.
No, I was like, when he called, I was like, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm bleeding, but I can wait. I'm not at my
You didn't talk
deathbed.
like that. You did
I
not talk like that,
totally talked like that.
girl.
I totally did.
Okay.
I was like, It's okay. I'm fine.
Well, I'm hanging up now.
Well, I
Bye.
don't wanna sit and say when I call you, I don't wanna sit and be like, "So, how's the weather? Oh, by the way, I'm in the emergency room with your brother."
No,
I
I
wanna
feel like
get to the point and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. I wanted you to know."
you gotta
Like,
give me a pat.
there's no good way to say it.
You gotta
There's no good way.
you gotta pat it for me a little bit. You gotta say, "Hey, I'm calling you right now. I'm letting you know everything is okay."
I do say that. Everything is okay. We're in the emergency room.
You say it like we've been there a lot, which I feel like we actually have. So I'm glad that we can end this episode with a couple laughs after talking about grief.
I know. I know. That's so true.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it
that's
is
what she's saying. Take the moments, laugh together, love together, cry together, be supportive of each other, be together.
period. Period,
Period.
period, period, period.
We can hang up now.
Well, before we do that,
So,
I gotta let the people know to make sure I gotta let the people know, thank you for joining us for another episode of listening to Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. We appreciate you guys tuning in every week. Listening means the world. Obviously, I can't end the episode without saying, please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook at Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. Email us if you have any comments, topics you want to talk about. This was a topic that somebody thought it would be interesting for us to dive into. So I was excited to do this. So email us at Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom podcast at gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. And yeah, just keep liking and sharing and passing this off to a friend who maybe needs it. I've gotten so many sweet messages where people are like, hey, I really started listening to your podcast with your mom,
yeah,
and I thought my friend needed to hear it. And I was like, you need to listen to that episode. And to me, I'm like, that is just how you get it out there in the world. So thank you for everybody who continues to do that.
I
And
even suggest certain episodes to certain people of my friends too.
you're
I'm like, "Oh, jump to that one first, then you can go back."
that's the beauty of having a podcast catalog. It's like whatever you're feeling that day, you can just jump in and feel it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you everybody for listening and supporting. We love you guys. And I guess Barb's going to hang us up now.
Yep. I'm hanging up now. Bye.
Call you later. Love you.
Later.